Good afternoon, everybody. This is live from Longview. I am Mark Nelson. I'm hosting tonight, and I'm here with Cowles County PUD Commissioner Dwayne Douglas. And this is my first time hosting, so I'd like to welcome you all. Apparently, we're not live tonight because of some technical difficulties, and so we're recording this. It'll be uploaded at a little later time. But welcome to all of you who are joining us, and we're looking forward to getting to visit with the Commissioner and hear a little bit about him, hear a little bit about what's happening with the PUD, and maybe some other things that are going on as well. So join us. Welcome.
Well,
thanks
you
again for
Mark.
being here.
Thanks for hosting.
You bet. Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's been a while.
We spent some time last year on the campaign trail. His was successful, mine not so much, but here we
It's
are
that
today.
political thing, isn't
It is. Yep, I've got it. So tell me a little bit. Tell us a little bit, if you would. Give us some history, some background about you and where you're from and family and that kind of stuff. I think is fun and interesting for people to hear.
Well, I'm 62 years old. I've been here my whole life in Cowles County.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm old. Cowles County has always been my home. I love Cowles County. And I grew up in South Kelso. And after I
South Kelso boys.
South Kelso. There we go, yeah. After high school, I got a job out in the woods for Weyerhaeuser logging. And I had 13 years in, and after the mountain erupted, I got bumped back to Hookton, and then I was, unfortunately, had a log roll over me and squished me. And, at that time, I think God had a better plan or a bigger plan for me. And that's how I got into the electrical wholesale trade. And I've been in the electrical wholesale trade for 34 years. And I'm an industrial commercial salesman. So we sell a lot of high tech to the mills. The industry is changing so fast. It's hard to keep up with everything and all
I'm sure.
and all the new things that are out there. So it's a very interesting trade, Mark. I've learned a lot. And I would highly recommend it for anybody if they're just kind of on the fence about what they want to do for a career. It's a great career. It's been really good for my family. I've been able to stay here in the community and do a lot of things in the community. I've been married to my wife, Jerry, my lovely wife, Jerry, who you've met.
Yes.
For 27 years. We live over on First Street off the lake there, and we have I have two lovely children with her. Sadie, who is 22 years old. She got a scholarship for running for Clark Community, and she has the steeplechase record there, but she also is a two-time All-American.
Bye.
And she got a scholarship to St. Martin's University in Lacey for running. And you'll be interested in this. She graduates in May, and she's into criminal justice.
Oh, yeah.
And she just got her Alpha Phi Sigma National Justice Honor.
Wow.
Last Friday. So she's one of 35,000 in the country to get that award.
That's special. That's pretty amazing.
It is amazing. I mean, and she graduates in May and she gets married in June.
And so, what are her plans after that?
Well, they're going
not
to
on the marriage side, but
they're going to
career-wise.
Colorado, and she's going to get into the criminal side of
Actually, it's pretty light for 5 o'clock.
where they go into this criminal scenes.
It's a criminal investigation
Criminal investigation.
with the state. Is that her plan, or?
I'm not
So
sure.
forensics
It's
of
going to
some
be
type.
forensics, yeah. It could be through a police,
Sure. Yep.
sheriff's,
Yep.
or, she really likes it. She's been doing it for a long time, and she's very good at it. So whoever ends up with Sadie's gonna get a really
Yeah.
good gal.
Yeah.
And then my youngest Drake is
No, spring and
he got a full ride to New York Film Academy,
Wow.
and that is there's one in New York and one in Burbank, California. So he decided to go to the one in Burbank, California. So he studies in Warner Brothers and Universal Studios. That's his playground. And last year, he won he got first place in the Los Angeles Film Festival, short films, LA Film Festival.
Wow.
19 years old, not bad.
Not bad.
And then he got 3 other top awards on top of that. So I believe that he's probably destined to be in the film industry, whether it's producing, writing, directing, or even acting. I think that's where his destination
Yeah.
is.
Wow.
So, of course, that being said, he got a full ride too. But you know, when you think about full rides, there's still the other end of it.
Right. It's not really quite full.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know, I say I have 34 years in the industry, and of course I'm taking on the PUD also. It would be nice to be able to retire from the electrical industry and do the PUD for a time, but it's not feasible with 2 kids in school. So I'm going to have another couple of years before I can step out, which is okay, because I spend a lot of time in the community, doing things. In fact, last Thursday at the city council, I just got an award for, I was on the city salary committee for 8 years. And got a nice little.
Oh, very nice. Yep. Yep.
You know,
Yep.
I'm a firm believer that if you live in a community, you need to get out and do things for the community. And I did a lot of stuff with the city. I helped them with their LED lighting programs. And one thing that I'm very proud of that I did with the city is when they do their bids, instead of just taking the low bid from out of town, I'm very much for Cowlitz County in this community. So I want our people working, and I want people buying local.
Right.
And so I got a little bit frustrated with them over the lighting, because they hired a firm out of Seattle. And so they talked about it a little bit. I told them why they made their mistakes. And they came back to me and they said, hey, we've talked a lot about this, Mr. Daglish, and we understand where you're coming from, and here's a resolution. Would you come to the meeting tonight? We're going to talk to you about it. I said, great, I'd love to listen. So they came up with, if a local contractor is within $10,000 of the bid, they automatically get it awarded. It stays here. And those are the kind of things that, being in the business of politics, those are the things that make you feel good when you can turn that corner,
Right.
and do something right for the community.
Right. Yes.
And thank goodness that the city council and the mayor, I give them a lot of credit for that. They took that to heart, and they changed that and made a nice little rule out of it. And I hope it's working. It seems like it's working.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting.
So what, I can see, being engaged in the community in the way that you have. What drew you towards the political side of things?
I don't, Mark, that's a good question. I'm not sure of anything, one
Touch of
thing.
fever, a little insanity,
Yeah, too much whiskey. I really, I don't think there was a whole lot that drew me to politics, and I'm not sure if I really even thought about it. Really, being politics is 7 years ago, one of the PUD commissioners came to me and they were starting a new program over at the PUD. They called it the ERAC committee.
Was it yesterday when it started?
And it's made up of 15 people, men and women, that are business people. And as you know, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, the PUD was really in a rough spot. We had a lot of things going on, and it just didn't seem like it was clicking. It wasn't going in the right direction. So they got this committee together to see if they could come up with something that could help. Maybe new ideas, you know? And man, we sat down there, and the first time we sat there and we looked at each other and we went, wow, we got a lot of work on our plate here. And you know, I can honestly say after 6 years of being on that committee, we went and came a long ways. My last year on the committee, we were able to come to the people of Calais County and say, hey, guess what? No rate raises this year. And you know, that was a long time coming. That was hard work, a lot of dedicated people, and worked through a lot of things. Was that political? I guess that's political. After that point, I had a lot of people call me and say, Wayne, you need to run. You need to run for the PUD Commission. And, you know, I really liked being on the rate committee. It was, I felt it was energy and good people to work with. And I really, Mark, I didn't think at that particular time I really wanted to run for office, because I liked where I was. Sure. But the more and more people that called me and talked to me about situations and what they felt that I could do in that particular job at the PUD, it was my time, I was ready to do it. And it took me some time, Mark. I mean, it was not an overnight thing. You know, it was 9 months of running for office, and that's a lot out of your life, a lot out of you know, the things that you do with yourself. You change everything about where you're going, your directions. So yeah, I really didn't think about it as being a political thing at the time, but it really is. And I'm glad I did it. I'm very glad I did it. I really enjoy doing the work at the PUD. Just came from there, you know, 4 hours of meetings today. It is so interesting, and it's right up my alley because I come from the electrical world. So it really helps me with the background. And being on the rate committee has really helped.
But I'm just saying, you know, in most cases.
Get you entrenched in there, but there's so much more that goes on at that PUD, at that level. I wish more people would come to the meetings. It is a little bit frustrating that more people don't come, because I think they would get a lot out of it.
What kind of attendance do you generally get?
We have 3, 4, 5 people. You know, it's not like when you go to the city hall meetings where they'll get 450 people.
Right.
So it is. I wish more people would come. And it is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You know, and we've tried to move it to 5, and we've tried to move it to 7, and it just doesn't seem to click.
Sure.
But there's so much happening that. And when I was running for the office, that was one of my main things that I talked to people about, being transparent and proactive. And in the 2 months that I've been in the job, this is my 5th forum that I've been out talking to people. So, and that's not going to change. If somebody needs to talk to me or call me up, email me, I'm available. If you have something that you need to get off your plate, call me. Yeah, we'll talk about it. You might not like my answers,
Sure.
but you know, it's there. I think we were talking a little bit about, Steve, the manager. And I want to say that going back to that rate committee, when he came on board 3 years ago, I was still on that committee, and instantly noticed the difference in not only the attitude of the people that work at the PUD, but the whole spectrum of the PUD changed. This guy came in with a program. We're gonna change things here. We're going to make this business work. And he really has. He has saved us over $7 million a year in our budget.
Right.
We talk about a little bit about his contract and his salary. That he was the second man in charge in Seattle Light. That's big. He's been in the industry for 37 years. He knows a lot of people. He knows how to buy and sell power, bonds. He knows how to do a 5-year budget plan. And he has turned this thing around to where we are.
So how are you doing?
Black. We have reserves. We are going in a very good direction.
Thank you.
I'm sad that he's leaving us. I really like Steve Kearns, but I understand why he's leaving us.
No, wait a minute.
I've known what we, the commissioners have done is we put an assistant GM in place, Gary Huda. And Gary Huda's been with the PUD for 27 years. He is the power. He buys and sells power for us. So he really has a very good understanding of running the PUD. He's been in that position before when as an assistant GM. So we put him in as an interim. We're hoping to have
Okay, thank you.
the general manager picked hopefully March, April.
So is your search, how have you gone about your search program for a GM?
Well, first of all, we wanted to look within. Again, when you have as many people that you have over there, you want to be able to think that you have somebody there that is qualified to do that job.
Right.
And if you don't, then we're not doing something right. And if you look at all of the positions in our PUD, we have people that are ready to come up and fill. If somebody leaves this position or is advanced into another position, we have somebody that can come in and take this position. We are training from within, and that's how you run a good business. And this is what Steve has done. He's taken that platform on. And I see a lot of that in Gary Huda. If he ends up being the man, we don't know yet. He has a lot of those traits. And because we need to keep going where we're going. We came from some pretty dark spaces, you know that.
Right.
I mean, and we 3 commissioners get along tremendously. You don't always get along, but you have that, well, I'm not sure if I understand that, but okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna go this direction. It's real, we all have that in our head. We're not going to go that other direction, it just isn't gonna happen. We have really got good things going on. And if we do end up getting out there and seeing somebody from the outside, and there's a lot to that. When you think about, there's 27 other PUDs. Last year there were 9 PUD new GMs. 9.
Yeah.
And in fact, Chris Roden, who is from our PUD, is now the PUD GM in Lewis County.
Oh.
So we lost a very good man who was our liaison in Olympia. So we had somebody up in Olympia every day beating on the legislature.
Right.
And I feel like we need to get another person in there, but that's, you don't just pick somebody up to go do that. They have to have that background to understand that type of politics. So, and it was tough losing Chris, but, his salary, I think up there is $220,000. Steve's was $220,000.
What's that?
So Steve has 37 years. And he turned us
My
around.
5:30, yeah, what if you got done by
He
5?
earned that salary. He earned that.
But you said you
that new
didn't
salary.
want, that's right. Because then you have to go right.
I don't know where we'll be with the new GM. Obviously, we'll take a look at that when we cross that bridge.
As a board, how have you folks, and I realize you're not speaking for them individually,
Right.
but as a board, how do you deal with and address the issue that comes up in the community when you have a salary adjustment like that? Which, of course, I mean, took a lot of hits publicly.
A lot of hits.
But how do you as a board approach that, deal with that, see that when you're looking at a community with some of the issues that we have and you're talking about those kind of
And this is-
compensation?
Absolutely, and there, that, again, that's a good question. We get together as a board and we address this, and just like what I've been saying here about who Steve is and what he's done for us. When you think about somebody saving you $7 million a year, that raise really is minimal.
Sure, yep.
It's less than 0.5% of his salary when you think about it. So he earned that. You don't always get everything you earn. We know that. We've been in business forever.
Right, yeah.
But he was, when you look at the overall salaries of the GMs in the state of Washington, he was on the very low end. So we had to move him up to get where we needed him to be. And I understand when you think about salaries in this community, that was high, but he's also got $280 million budget.
Sure.
So you have to take that into perspective. See, these are things that if people were coming to the meetings, they would hear this at the
Right.
meetings.
Right, right.
So,
Yeah, there's
and
that
so
whole thing
you-
about what you hear about and read in the media, regardless of whether it's print, radio, television, social,
Yeah.
whatever that is, and that's where people get their news and how they get it. One, I guess, follow-up question to that, was this something, and I never did see this particular thing addressed, was this something that was contractual or was it discretionary?
Well, it's a contract. He gets a yearly, we go in every year and go over all the salaries.
Okay, so
So
it's an
understand
annual
that-
salary
an annual,
review.
yeah,
Okay.
review. I understand that his salary was before I got into office.
Got it, okay.
So I did not vote on his salary.
Right.
I was not involved in that, but I was at the meeting and said that, yes, he deserves his salary. So if I would have been on the board at the time, I would have voted it.
Okay.
So, like me or dislike me on that, but that's my view is, I've sat there for 3 years and watched Steve do what he does. Very impressive, very impressive. I
What?
almost felt like it was not enough, to be honest with you. But,
Oh.
again, there's 9 other people that got hired this year as general managers, now that he's leaving us. Thank goodness we have somebody inside that is capable of taking that on.
Sure.
But, we are going to be looking at all the avenues, but are we actually going to find somebody that's capable of doing, in going in the direction that we're going. We want to stay the course,
Right.
because it's a good course. If it was not a good course, then obviously we wouldn't want to stay that course.
Right.
But are we gonna find somebody out there that has the same ideas, the same demeanor as Steve has? You go down to the PUD now, everybody has a smile on their face, they're all working together, it's a team. It's a very much team unit now.
Plus it's close if I got drunk.
It's just a lot of
You know, when
fun.
I couldn't.
We're, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, yeah, there wasn't a team unity.
Right, sure. Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is the atmosphere of the PUD has changed positive. So when we do go out and
Oh, yeah.
find the new person, we need to make sure that that person understands where we're headed. As a PUD commissioners, we need to make sure that we do our job. This is where the PUD commissioners come in, and we have to do our job correctly. Because there's a lot at stake. We have a lot on our plate, Mark. I mean, we have a lot.
Sure
on
you
our
do.
plate. It's, again, you talk about the budgets. Bias on power and with our governor, Jay Inslee, you know, he wants 100% carbon free. And today, they shoved his initiative through, so they are going to be voting on this initiative. And good or bad, what's it gonna do to the PUDs?
Right.
You know, we don't know. He wants no coal by 2025. He wants no natural gas by 2035. Now, you know, he wants to run the state on solar and wind. You know, and
Hydro?
yeah, a little hydro. Yeah. You know, but and I really like hydro. I think hydro is a great. One thing that, and I think more people need to kind of look into is the nuclear end of things. When we did SATSUP, I feel like we didn't have the right engineering, we didn't have the right people in place, and I think that's why it fell through. And it was 700 megahertz per unit. I think if you knock those down to 200 and strategically put them around the state, it's great carbon-free energy. And, you know, there's a way to dispose of things the right way, to make really good energy. I think it would help us. It would cut back on a lot of the wind turbines that you see out there. We wouldn't need them. You know, so there's other avenues that we can go. You know, you brought up, the dams. It's generation. It's awesome. It's great clean power. It does affect the fish, but we work on that fish every year. We work on that fish.
Yeah.
You know, and they're coming back. You know, and there's I don't think that the wind turbines and solar, I'm not against solar. I like solar, but how much solar can we use in this part of the country because of the sun? And the other thing, when you think of solar and the batteries, lithium, you know how lithium is, do you know how we get lithium? They strip mine. Now, how energy is that? When Jay Inslee's thinking about energies, strip mining lithium, it's not good. But I will tell you that they are working on sodium batteries. Sodium comes from the ocean. You can't get much cleaner energy than that. They've got it down. I think within the next couple of years, you're going to see the footprint come down. Right now, the footprint is too big, and they'll be bringing that down. And when they do, you're going to see sodium batteries instead of lithium batteries. Now, that is good. That is great energy.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, the solar panels know, their technology is moving so fast that, you know, the 2x4 sheet ended up being a 1x12. Who knows? You know, I really am not against solar, but I don't know if solar could run the things that we need run.
So the greatest energy usage, and let's say in our area, the greatest amount of energy used, is it industry or residential?
Oh, it's industry by far, 6.5, 6.6 bigger.
So and realizing that any additional requirements or any of the things, any of the additional burdens that you put on industry to build up, you know, for them to change the way that they do business, ends up costing them and us as a community in the long run.
And here's the thing, though, we could lose them as part of our PUD. They might go out on their own. So if they go out on their own, that's 6.5 kilowatts of energy that, now we gotta go out on the market and sell
So in other words, they could purchase
their own.
power from someplace else.
That's correct.
Eats their food.
So, yeah, that's an interesting question, and it's been asked.
I'm sure it has.
You know, and you know, I hope it doesn't come to that ever.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at.
I'm looking at more industries coming in
Right.
to use us.
So, which, do you think that there's a greater likelihood of that happening or a lesser likelihood of that happening should the carbon tax get passed?
Boy, you know,
I mean, I look at it, you're gonna say, okay, we're gonna restrict the type of power that you can use and or purchase or energy for industry. Then I'm looking and I'm thinking, okay, probably I'm gonna move to, put my business in some other state.
yeah, that's absolutely, and you know that's coming. And this is why I'm not understanding why we're moving in the direction we're moving, because we, out of all the states, we're like number 8 with carbon. We're already there. We're 85% carbon free. You know, why tax this state with more? Why burden it with more? You know, we're where we need to be, and people are working. You know, communities need to survive. And if you burden them with so much of this stuff, pretty soon they're not surviving. And you know, are you going to have half the state solar and half the state wind turbines? Where are you going to put the transmission lines and the substations?
Right.
You know, and are they going to be sufficient enough to run our mills? You know, it's a good question because, you know, they're looking at fertilizer, for instance.
Oh, you ready for
that wants to
banana
come
split
to
now?
town.
Right?
You know, that, from what I understand, that's 400 or 500 jobs. Well, now you take a kid that's in
Oh my goodness.
high school, that's graduating, that like years ago when we were kids, right? When we got out of high school, we could go to college, or we could go to
Next time
work.
I'll fix your
We
double
had that
bacon.
opportunity. It was there. It was never a question of whether you could find work or not.
Or go stay with Sam like some of
Or go to Uncle Sam, yeah. So, you know, we always had those opportunities. The young people coming out of high school now, they don't necessarily have those opportunities.
Right.
So when you put a facility here that is 400 or 500 jobs, now you're giving them an opportunity to have a family wage job, go out and buy homes, buy cars, you know, get married. This is the things that I look at as living here, not necessarily because I'm at the PUD, it's the way I feel as a person, living here in this community. I love Cowlitz County. I want it to grow. I want it to survive. In order for it to grow and survive, we've got to start getting some more industry.
Right.
And you know, our times are getting shorter and shorter with this. We gotta quit allowing people that are coming from out of state and telling us how to run our business. We know, we have enough good business people in this community to know how to run our businesses. And we have to step up to the plate and start doing this.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, I would go as far as to say as well that, that we have people in a certain part of our state, not far north of here, that we don't necessarily need telling us how to run things in our community.
And we do that. And
As well.
It's a killer. And, you know, I don't really have the answer to that. Because I know the other, when you go east of the mountain, we have, you know, they're there too, and we have those two identities that really dictate to us what we're going to do, even though we don't vote it in.
Right.
I-1639,
Right?
there was no way that that was going to pass here.
Not here, not in
Ever.
eastern Washington, not in
Yeah.
any other part
But,
of this.
but guess what?
But here it is.
Yeah, here it is. And I worried about initiative 1361 with the carbon. So, of course,
Brian.
the governor he did not have his name on that one. But he had already made this initiative that's already going through the House to be voted on. He had already had that done and ready to go. Because he knew that initiative
The
wasn't
guy
going to
that's
pass.
on Denver's.
It was the third time around, and it didn't pass. We did it the right way. But now, I don't know if we, the people, are gonna have that choice. I think they're just gonna tell us, this is what. And this is what, we at the PUD, we have people at the state legislators every day
Let's go for your foot. We're gonna pick up that
pounding
money
these
before you
people.
crunch it.
What are you gonna do for Cowlitz PUD if this initiative passes? Because
Somebody has their shoes back.
is this gonna be good for
No,
us
we've
or
been out there
bad
for
for
about 3
us?
weeks. I've been getting this in blood.
You know, we have, we have one dam that has 25% of our generation. We have wind turbines, yes, we do. But those wind turbines, we don't own the transmission lines.
You're talking about Swift. the-
Swift, yeah.
Right.
That's 25% of our power.
And if I get caught up.
We have the wind turbines.
$7.99.
The problem is we don't own the transmission lines or the substation. So BPA is not gonna just give that to us.
So although you have the turbines that are generating the power,
Right,
getting it from the wind turbine
to here,
down the line
transmission lines.
to the substation to distribute it to us here.
Cowlitz County.
That's,
We don't own any of that.
okay, all right.
So BPA owns that. So we buy 80% of our power from the BPA. We don't know what we're buying. It could be generation from the dams. It could be nuclear. We don't know. We just buy power from
Yeah.
it. So, and that's gas, and gas. That could all change with all this new regulation.
That's what I want.
What, how is the BPA going to be entered in on this, selling to the state of Washington? And what's it gonna cost them? So then ultimately, what's it gonna cost us?
And so in other words, what you're saying is that the power that would be coming from BPA to Cowlitz PUD, or really pretty much any place else in
Yeah.
Washington that's gonna be buying, we don't know how that power was generated.
Well, we know how it was generated, but we don't know what are we buying. They buy and sell all day long, every day. We don't know. We don't know if we're buying from the dams,
Right?
from the gas, or solar.
Yes, I'm saying, so if the carbon tax is passed, it says
You
it
have
can
to
either
buy-
be solar or it can be wind. then
that changes everything.
then you can't just buy wholesale where you don't know where you might be getting hydro or coal or gas
Or coal.
generated.
Okay, so
power,
you can
right?
still buy, but they're going to tax you on that. They're going to
I see.
penalize you for buying that.
Okay,
So how do you differentiate that? How do you know what you're buying? Okay, so that's gonna tax Bonneville. And there's just a whole lot of, when you think about no gas, think about how much natural gas this state uses. It's unbelievable.
we have it, it's a natural resource.
It's just a resource. Now think about not having that.
Or having it and somebody telling you that you can't use
Yeah,
it.
you can't use it, it's gone.
Yeah.
Now, coal, whether people know it or not, but Weyerhaeuser uses coal every day. Or Nippon, I guess I'm gonna call them.
Right.
Nippon Highway. They use it every day. So, is it a good resource? You know, but we're not gonna have it. In 2025, it's gone. So, you have to look at other resources. So, you know, I do like the natural gas. And I do like the dams, generations coming off the dams. I think it's a great resource. But again, people are scared of the nuclear end of things. And I really think it's a great resource.
I remember
But
when
instead of building the big one, 700 megahertz, build the smaller ones,
Right.
build the 200s.
I remember when my dad was the sheriff and here, of course, he had Trojan over across the river,
Right.
a volcano.
Yep.
Of the river. But he always said, you know, the thing that scares me the most, is I'm not afraid of the nuclear plant. I'm a little nervous about the volcano, but the one that really makes me nervous is the chlorine plant, Weyerhaeuser. That was the one that at the time was
That's interesting, yeah.
his greatest concern. But,
It can be very,
yeah.
yeah.
I
Well, I don't think a lot of people were unhappy with that plan, did they?
Yeah. I think that, you know, nuclear to me is interesting because, I mean, when you're talking about the difference from 40 or 50 years ago, the plants that were being built, I'm sure that the concept and all that stuff, the science behind it is the same, but the technology and everything we're so much further advanced from what we were.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Well, just like you were talking about
Disposal,
with the
you put the
batteries.
disposal in the glass and sand, and, I mean, it's just a great way to dispose of it. I mean, there's so much better technology. I think we need to look at it. You know, what is the cost of building it, you know, compared to the wind turbines? Instead of having wind turbines everywhere, you've got one plant feeding everything.
Remember the first time that I saw the wind turbines on a trip over to Eastern Washington? I remember looking and thinking, wow, they're graceful and you know, really, really cool looking and it was very impressive the first time I saw it. Well, that was probably about 10, 12 years ago. Now, the last time I went through, it's like a forest. And, I mean, you know, and you look off and you go, wow. I mean, I remember what that looked like when it was just all open land.
Open land, see, and this is what I'm talking about. Now, you think about that statement that you just made. Now, think about half of the state being,
Sure, yeah.
isn't that ugly? And then
Yeah,
think
I-
about,
I'm not a big- I'm not a
wind
big, huge
turbines,
fan.
wind turbines, not only they kill wildlife, but they generate heat. Now, if you're into carbon initiatives, what are you gonna do with the heat?
see, isn't there a term, something about the global?
warming. Okay, so now you know where I'm going.
Sure.
Okay, now, also, there's a lot of oil in these turbines. And I don't know if you saw on Facebook the other day, that one of the turbines that blew up, it had dispersed oil everywhere. I mean, it literally had, on top of the ground.
I can imagine,
You could
yeah.
see the oil everywhere. So, you know, is that
You haven't seen that one on
free?
Facebook?
Is that initiatives? You know, we have, sometimes I think we have to hold our governor more accountable for the things that he
I
wants
think I
to do.
shared that one. That is the-
And now, and I will tell you that the Cowlitz County PUD is advocating with our legislators every day. We have a commissioner in Washington DC today as I'm speaking. We have a commissioner there in Washington DC speaking on our behalf.
Like this,
And
it stops. and it
you
goes
might
like
not
that.
think that little old Cowlitz County has a voice, but we have a voice. And we use that voice. And it's one thing I'm very proud of at Cowlitz PUD is we use those voices. And we advocate for the things that we need here. Because whatever they decide in Olympia, we have to live with. And then I have to come to the public and say, well, we have to do this. Because our governor says this is what we have to do.
Right.
So what's that gonna cost the people? What's that gonna cost the citizens? You know, I was never so proud, Mark, as to be able to go out and talk to the people this last summer while we were doing our elections and tell people that, boy, you know, after 6 years, we finally got to vote on no rate raises. That's a wonderful thing,
Yes, it is.
you know,
Yeah.
and they want.
I appreciated it as a homeowner, and I'm sure you did as well as a property owner.
Yes, as a homeowner, that, it's.
You got
it's
to
a
do it and
wonderful
you got the
thing.
benefit from it, so.
You know,
that's
and
what
I got
makes
to,
it-
and I got to be a part of that.
Yeah,
And I think when you asked me earlier about, you know, running for the office, you know, that was one of the, I sat down and wrote a lot of pros and cons. I think you do that. And that was one of my I mean, it was big for me, because I worked really hard at that. The whole group does. And we need that rate committee, and we still have that rate committee, and I'm glad we do. And Steve is an advocate of the rate committee. We have Bonneville, you're gonna like this one. Came out this week. They found a $200 million mistake. Oops. Yeah, oops. So they have power and they have transmission, separate groups. They found over $200 million in the power end of it. That should have been on the transmission side. Well, they wanted to raise our rates to 2.9 this year. And Steve has been advocating all year that it should be zero rate raise. And if this really puts a big cog in the wheel for BPA, because Steve and the rest of us are gonna push for that 0, 0, 0 on the rate raises this year. If that happens, we should have the rate raises again this year. But I can't. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that's gonna happen.
sure, yeah.
But that's a huge mistake. And we have to hold, as a PUD, we have to hold Bonneville accountable for that. And they're gonna have to tell us what they're going to do. And we just started that on March 12th is our big meeting. With Bonneville, they're gonna start talking about the mistake and how to rectify it. So, you know, be prepared. There's gonna be lots of stuff in the newspaper.
I'm sure there will, and of course, they'll be looking for ways that will save them as much money or help them make as much money out of the
Yeah,
deal as they
he
can.
he was down today talking about it, and he was kind of wanted to ask questions, but couldn't answer the question, because he really doesn't know yet.
Right.
Until they sit down and figure out how this happened. I think it goes back to 2002, 2004.
Wow.
It's a long time.
It sure is.
Oh, that's $50 million a year. You know, you think about that. That's a big budget. That's a big budget.
And it's a big decimal in the wrong place,
In the
or I
wrong
forget to
spot.
carry the
You know
one
how
or
to
whatever.
do, you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah,
You were
I mean,
in that position.
That's a big budget mistake.
So when you think about that, $200 million mistake, now
Yeah.
how are you going to fix it? And where did this mistake come from? How did it happen?
Right,
And do we owe anything back to the other PUDs
right.
that have been paying for rate raises?
Yeah. Well, I know as a public, when I was serving as a public official and had responsibility for my budget, I had personal responsibility for that budget.
Oh, absolutely.
So, you know, I mean, you have to be pretty careful in making sure that you are, you're managing that the way that it's supposed to be managed. And if not, there are serious consequences. I mean, being personally responsible meant that any overages actually came out of your paycheck.
Well, Steve Kearns is going to hold, and I can guarantee you, we at Cowlitz are not going to let this slide. We are gonna hold them accountable for what we can get out of this. What is Cowlitz County going to get out of this mistake? And it should be 0 rate raises.
Yeah.
You know, and Steve's been advocating that all year anyway. And, you know, these are things that Steve does for us to deserve that salary.
Right. Yep.
And he works very hard at this game, and I, you know, and I think the person that steps into his shoes, they're gonna have
Give her some.
big shoes to
She's
fill.
got too little, she's got too
Because
little.
he set the bar pretty high,
Yeah.
you know,
Used a few
and
on here.
I'm looking forward to going through the processes of hiring a new GM. I'm not happy about it, but,
Where do I apply?
there you go, there you go. That's a job that I don't think I want.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
sure.
You know, that's a 24/7 job.
I had one of those.
You know, you had one of those. And, yeah, you don't just, at 5 o'clock, you don't just turn the thing off and go home. You know, you're always constantly thinking about things that are going on, buying and selling bonds and power and
No, if
who
you
do I
brush
need to
it
talk
back,
to
we'll let
about
that-
doing this? And
Right.
can I get the other PUDs to come in to the fold? And, you know, this is one thing that Steve's worked really hard at advocating is, he's gone around to the other PUDs and said, look, we can be stronger, we can be a stronger advocate with Bonneville when we go to get our contracts, if we all stick together. So, you know, some of the PUDs are understanding what Steve is saying, and some of them, you know, are kind of standing back. But you think about it, if you could get, you know, 5, 7, 10 PUDs to come in with you, and then you go and negotiate your rates, that's buying power.
Right, yep.
And I understand where Steve's coming from with that, and I would hope that the other smaller PUDs that don't have that buying power would come in and say, hey, Steve, I want to join this, I want to do this. You know, it is exciting times when you think about our in 2028, and we have our contract coming up in 2028. But you know, we're starting the negotiations now.
Right.
So, again, I told you we buy 80% of our power from them now. Let's just say we make that 30%, 50%. You know, we don't have to stay with Bonneville. Do I want to stay with Bonneville? Yeah, I like Bonneville. They've been a good customer.
Good partnership.
Good partnership, and,
Right.
and you don't just walk away from that partnership. Do they need to clean house? Yeah, they have a lot of clean housing to do. There's, you know, when you lose $200 million, you got something going on. You better find out where it's at and get rid of it and start over.
Right.
They are going to bring some outside people in. I mean, this is not a process that you're going to fix in a month. This is, this is gonna go clear into, June, April, June.
Right.
Until they come out and say, hey, this is what we've got. So, it'll be interesting, and,
So we've just got a couple of minutes here before we're gonna wrap this up, and I wanna ask you about some of your personal passions, interests, community-wise. What are some of the things that you are engaged in? Not that what you're doing isn't enough, I understand that. But I also know that for a person who has a heart for their community, and when you serve in a great many other ways other than just your
well, one of my, and I thank you for asking this question, because you really didn't touch on it. One of the things that I talked about when I was running was senior citizens and veterans. And there's a Kelso Elks Veterans, Liz Johnson. Her and I and Tony, and we are getting together and we are trying to put together a program that will help the veterans with the PUD, getting them signed up, getting them on a program. They won't necessarily pay the whole thing. There's programs out there, and we had a couple of meetings set up. Snow got us. So now that I think the snow is gone, that's on my plate. The veterans are on my plate, and that's what I'm going to work very hard at. And when I get done with that, then I'm going to go after the senior citizens to see what we can do for that. We have a HUD program, so we have senior citizens. But there's a lot that I think that legislators can do for us to help these people. And with our taxes going the way they're going and everything going up, I don't want them to have to make a decision. Well, do I pay my heating bill or do I not eat?
Right.
And Mark, that bothers me. It bothers me a lot.
Right.
And when I hear that, I just it's hard. And so if there's something that I can do, I'm going to do it. Jim Walls is a very passionate man. And I think that I could get him motivated enough to find some stuff for us that we can do. And he's a good man. I don't know if you've talked to him about him, but you got to go up to Olympia and you got to talk to these people.
Yep.
And that's how we get the ball rolling, and that's how we get things done.
It's how you do it in your business, it's how we did it. In my business, I know that the connections in Olympia, connections in Washington DC, all meant a tremendous amount to us here in Cowlitz County.
It does.
And, not to go to bed, but I think it was one of the things that I regret about not being able to continue in my job, was because we lost that piece, that connection, my engagement that we had there. But it is so important.
It is
to have that connection and to be able to work with that. I can't tell you how much fun this has been to get to visit with you and hear some of the things, not only just to find out more about you and the man that you are, and kind of what drew you to serving in this community that you've lived in and grown up in, and I think that's huge and something I can truly relate to.
Yes.
Being born and raised here.
It's a wonderful community.
It is,
And it
with
takes,
all the
it
potential.
takes, it takes people to get out. I think this is what a lot of my friends were saying, you know, it's your time to do this. It was.
They know which one's theirs.
I love this community and I want this community to survive.
Same water.
And it takes people like you and I to be out there in it to make it work.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's easy to sit home and say, oh, you
Well, the
know,
other one kept trying to do.
They'll take it.
That doing nothing to do
you
with
know, but get out there in the community and I don't care if it's just,
it. Just try to
you know,
help.
putting food baskets together for somebody.
Right,
You know,
right.
get out there and make the community yours.
And the one I
This
can
is,
watch her.
this is
now.
our Cal's County,
Yes, it is.
you know,
Yep.
and
I know it, yeah.
I just feel very strongly for it, and I love my home.
So I just want to finish up by saying, there's a piece in a book that's written by William Paul Young called The Shack. I don't know if you're familiar with the book, but there was just a section that he wrote in this book where it talks about the littlest thing that every time you forgive, every time you engage in some way, it makes a difference. And it can be a little engagement, it can be a big engagement, but whatever it is that you do makes a difference. And it's the proverbial ripple effect, if you will. And so,
I like that statement because you don't always have to do something big.
no, you do not. No, you do not. The thing that you do today is simple kindness to a person today may pay huge dividends down the road. You just don't know. You don't know, but it's worth making the investment.
It is.
Absolutely.
You know, even though I'm at the PUD, I still do a lot. I go to most of the city council meetings. I do a lot with the chamber. You know, you have to be active in the community. So when people ask you questions, you
Why
know
would it take
what's
that long
going
to
on in your community.
Right.
And, you know, we have a lot of really good people in this community.
Yes, we do.
You know,
Yes,
we're
we do.
very fortunate. And, you know, I believe we're moving in the right direction. I hope that we can get some more businesses here.
Right. I think that's the hope, that's the goal, that's the thing that will help keep Cowlitz County moving forward and not just surviving, but thriving. And I think that's what we.
See, I like that statement. I don't want to just survive.
I want to thrive. Yep, yep.
That's what I meant.
So thank you again, our guest tonight, Cowlitz County PUD Commissioner Dwayne Douglas. So we're just really been blessed to have him here tonight, and invite y'all back next week where District Court Judge Deborah Burchett will be here, and we'll be visiting with Deborah. So
Ask her lots of tough questions. We love to.
oh yeah, we'll ask her lots of tough questions. And
you're gonna enjoy it.
I've got a few old cases I want to bring up with her.
Oh, there you go. See?
Talk about-
Yeah.
See what she decides. Anyway, thank you again, Commissioner.
Thank you.
It's been great having you here.
Anytime. Anytime.
We really appreciate it, and we'll see y'all next week. Thank you. Okay.
Come back again.
Yes. We'll have you back down the road sometime.